So we start this episode right where we left off last week. Subaru is in shock that the Witch of Greed is telling him to sit down and converse with her, however he decides to join her nonetheless. This surprises Echidna because he does so with little to no hesitation. He asserts that he's willing to speak to her because if she really wanted him dead, he'd be dead already. And yeah, the only thing I can say to that is he clearly hasn't watched Tokyo Ghoul. During this conversation, Echidna doesn't really exude any hostile intent. She briefly shows Subaru her abilities by warping the environment around her, but for the most part she's very civil. In fact, she willfully reveals the name of all the witches and what they've accomplished in their lifetimes. We learn of Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony, who created bees to save the world from starvation. The Witch of Lust, Camilla, who granted non-human beings emotions in an attempt to fill the world with love. The Witch of Wrath, Minerva, who healed people. The Witch of Sloth, Sekhmet, who drove a dragon past the great waterfall for a chance to rest. The Witch of Pride, Typhon, who judged criminals. The Witch of Greed, Echidna, the witch that pursued knowledge at any cost necessary. And lastly, the Witch of Envy, the witch that killed the other witches to use them for sustenance and turned the world against her. Now if you notice, none of the witches aside from Envy seem to have any evil intent. In fact, it seems as though they all attempt to do good in some way or another. This makes me wonder about what drove Envy towards evil. Was it simply the pursuit of power? Was it immortality? Hopefully that's expanded upon. Anyways, Echidna and Subaru continue their conversation and Subaru starts convulsing. Echidna reveals that the reason for this is because she used the Envy witch factor in the tea to increase his resistance. She doesn't explain this in much detail aside from the assertion that they can now speak freely. I might be completely wrong, but I think she increased his resistance to the Witch of Envy's influence. We've seen in the past that when Subaru says something out of line, Envy either threatens to kill him or full-on murders him. They proceed with their conversation and we learn two major things. The first is that Subaru is now housing the Sloth witch factor. Echidna asserts that when Subaru killed Betelgeuse, his witch factor chose him as its new host. The second is that Echidna's soul is being held prisoner in the sanctuary. We're never told exactly why her soul is being held prisoner, but it makes me think that there's a possibility that the other witches may be being held prisoner as well. I think this would be cool because then we'd be able to see Subaru interact with the rest of the witches. Echidna then asks Subaru if there's anything he wants to ask her, and he's like, nah, let me out of here. Echidna is understandably confused because at this point, everyone that has spoken to her has sought out some sort of knowledge. Even I find myself facepalming a little bit. At the very least, ask her why she looks identical to Amelia. Unfortunately, Subaru doesn't use his brain, so he doesn't even ask that question. Before leaving Echidna, Subaru is granted the ability to face the trial of the sanctuary. However, before doing so, she makes it a point to assert that she's evil. This is kind of odd because Subaru later meets up with Roswaal, and Roswaal seems offended by anyone referring to Echidna as evil. Outside the sanctuary, we're introduced to Garfield. He guides Amelia and Subaru to Roswaal, and on their way there he reveals some information about the sanctuary. Apparently the sanctuary is a place where half-bloods are held prisoner. Once they enter, they're unable to leave unless someone completes the trial of the sanctuary. We see that Roswaal attempted the trial and failed. Now he's been left injured and bandaged pretty much from head to toe. The episode ends with Amelia attempting the trial of the sanctuary, but something goes awry and Subaru ends up running in after her. He finds her inside collapsed on the ground and he subsequently collapses as well. When he comes to, he's back in his room being greeted good morning by his father. I really enjoyed this episode. The only criticism I have is I wish we spent more time getting to know Echidna. I feel like there's so much to her character that is yet to be revealed, and it pains me that we have to wait who knows how long for that stuff to be addressed. I'm also looking forward to seeing why Subaru has been transported back to his home, and how that's related to the trial. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah, peace out, bye.